Hello and welcome to another Stay Wild at Home adventure with Wild Things. I'm Vic Strachan, the CEO of Wild Things.
And I'm Ellie, the fieldwork manager.
And together we're going to go off into the undergrowth to explore the fascinating world of Minibeasts.
So this woodlouse is a crustacean. So it's related to prawns and shrimp. The crustaceans are arthropods, which means that they have jointed limbs. Insects are also in that group, but insects only have 6 legs. If you look carefully at the woodlouse, you can see it's got a few more legs than that. It's actually got 14. It's also at the back got 2 little things that are used to sense, and it's also got gills at its back as well. So it's also got antenna at the front, also used for feeling its way around. You can see this one using it to see where it's going in a way and make sure it's not going to trip over anything. We found this underneath a stone, and that's because they like to be in really damp places. And just like their cousins in the sea or in fresh water, they actually breathe with a little bit of water. So if we turn one upside down, I can show you in a moment, it's actually, you can see its lungs on the underside. So that's the underside of it. And those lungs are those white things at the back. Sorry about the dirty fingernails.
Yeah, look at that. Beautiful, yeah. Amazing.
It's actually got quite a lot in common with a prawn. So this one's breathing out at the moment, so its lungs aren't particularly inflated, but sometimes you can see really big white bits. You can see its jointed limbs there as well.
Hi, so we've been rummaging around in the undergrowth for a little while now, and we found a few things, and Ellie has found something very interesting, something that a lot of people tend to be afraid of, but for not very good reason.
So inside the pot we have a little spider. Now in the UK there aren't any spiders that can cause us serious harm. So whilst people in Australia have a kind of a right to be a little bit afraid of spiders sometimes, we're okay here in the UK.
So this is the spider that Ellie's found. Ellie, what can you tell us about this little guy?
Well,
or girl?
You were right the first time. So that one is a little guy. And you can tell the sex of spiders by the big bits at the front. So this particular one looks like it's got a pair of boxing gloves at the front, kind of where the palps would be. And that means that it's a male. So it actually uses those to to mate with, basically, without giving too many details. What else can I tell you about the spider? So it's harmless to humans, same as most of the all of the natural spiders that you would find in the UK. Occasionally you get a strange one appearing in a box of bananas, but all of the wild ones that survive here are harmless. They're not entirely harmless if you are an insect or a fly or a midgie or a mosquito, because they are all kind of meat eaters, but they'll eat other invertebrates. So what they'll do is they'll capture them, and they have different ways of doing this. This type is an Aranyus, and it will have a web, but there are some that have less standard webs. Some of them have tubes, some of them have funnels. Some of them, like wolf spiders, are hunting spiders, and jumping spiders will do that as well. They won't have a web at all. They'll just run after their prey and jump on it. But this one will use some kind of web.
We've got 4 different species of wood ants in Scotland, but the ants that you're more likely to see in your garden are actually called the black garden ants, or sometimes called common black ants. Each nest will have a queen in it and worker ants who are going out and foraging for food and looking after the eggs and the larvae in the nest. So a nest first gets established when a new queen, or what's called a virgin queen, goes off on what's called a nuptial flight. So when we see flying ants, Flying ants are these same ants as what we're seeing here, but at a particular time in the summer, the male ants will grow a pair of wings, so will the virgin queens. They will fly off and the virgin queen will mate with the male ants. The virgin queen will then come back, build herself a little tunnel underground, seal off the tunnel, dig a little chamber at the back, lay the eggs in there, and then will stay with the eggs, not eating all the time, until the eggs hatch. And then when the eggs hatch, some of these worker ants can head off and start building the rest of the nest and bringing in food and that kind of thing. As things progress, as you get more worker ants being born, and as the nest gets bigger and bigger, you find that the little worker ants are actually bigger and more better at finding food as well.
Bees actually belong to a larger family of insects which includes ants and wasps. This group of animals are quite unique in the insect world for having highly developed social behaviours, and bees of these have one of the most developed brains in the insect world. There are 24 species of bumblebees in the UK and more than 255 species of bumblebee worldwide. Some of these live solitary existences and some will live together in colonies of between 50 to 500 individuals. Bumblebee colonies usually die off in the winter and the queens go into hibernation. They emerge in early spring to begin laying the next generation of eggs. Honeybees are another really fascinating species of bee, and they have one of the most highly developed brains of all those insects, of all the bees and bumblebees. They communicate complex messages to each other through pheromones, and their famous waggle dance enables them to use a kind of symbolic language of movements which can communicate to other bees the direction and distance of sources of nectar and pollen. Honeybees are really well known for producing honey, but it's less known that they actually create all kinds of other materials within the hive. For example, wax they use to build their hive, creating cells in which they lay their eggs. Bees also create propolis, which is a strong red sticky glue-like substance made from resins of tree sap. They use this to seal their hives, gluing its edges together and preventing other smaller insects from gaining access to the hive. Bees also are able to produce royal jelly from a gland in their foreheads. This protein-rich substance is used to bathe the eggs in, providing them all the nutrients they need to grow young, healthy bees. If you've ever enjoyed some honey in your tea or on toast, just 1 teaspoon of honey is in fact the life work of 12 honeybees. So, we're back in the woods today. And this time I'm with Paul, one of our instructors, and we're going to have a rummage around in the leaf litter now to see what mini beasts we can find. Let's go, Paul.
Good place to look for invertebrates or mini beasts might be in leaf litter, or in this case pine needle litter as well. So where there's lots of dead leaves or dead plant material lying on the ground, there'll be lots of invertebrates in there that are helping to break down all the plant material. They're called detritivores. They eat the detritus, so they're helping to rebuild the soil again. And then there's other mini beasts in there who are obviously hunting the detritivores. So some of the faster or more aggressive mini beasts in there as well. So a good way to find some of these species might be to burrow down a little bit into the more damp underlayers of the soil litter, of the leaf litter rather, and I'm going to put it into a soil sieve and then sieve it into this white tray, and this will allow us to maybe find some of those beasties that are in amongst all the plant material here. So we can sieve it into this white tray, which will show them up, and then after a few moments we can have a look and see what's on the move. Obviously the planty bits will stay still, other things with little legs will be on the move, and we can find out what there is in there. So if we have a closer look, you can see some little spiders running around in here that have come out of it. Again, that's one of the predators, and we've also got a little centipede in here. The centipede again would be one of the creatures in here that is hunting some of the other mini beasts.
I'm going to teach you how to make a Minibeast Hotel. A Minibeast Hotel is a series of different habitats or environments that invertebrates might like to come and live in. To create those different sections, we need a variety of different materials. So we will have sent you some things, but you can also supplement it with some recycling. So things like egg boxes, plastic bottles, toilet roll inner tubes, even some paper or anything really. The reason for a Minibeast Hotel is to improve the general ecosystem of your garden. If you find a place for ladybirds to breed, then the ladybirds will come and eat aphids of vegetables and roses and things like that. Whereas other invertebrates might just provide food for birds, amphibians, reptiles, and just wildlife in general. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use these cardboard tube inners, and I'm going to create different habitats within them. So I'm going to use this garden debris and put that inside there. I think in the other one I might put some dried leaves. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to use a nice big pine cone there. And a load of sticks. There are lots of different ways of doing this, but ultimately the aim is to create different habitats or environments. So I'm going to tie all of that together, and then I'm going to find a place to leave it. Now, you want to leave it in a place that's a little bit sheltered. If it's too sunny, it will become too hot and dry for a lot of these invertebrates. But if it's too wet as well, it might become waterlogged, particularly if you've used a plastic bottle. So it can get wet. I would suggest that if you use the plastic bottle, maybe do something like this and leave it on its side, and that will create a little environment. I'll add that in. There we go. So here we have the makings of a Minibeast Hotel. It's looking good. So I'm going to use the twine and just try and tie it all together. Okay, that's looking really good. Okay, so that's looking really good. What we're going to do now is we're going to leave that somewhere in the garden, so preferably a nice dark corner. If it gets too sunny or hot, a lot of these invertebrates won't like it, so it needs to be a little bit damp. It's also good if it's a little bit sheltered, because that will keep it all together. If you have used anything like a plastic bottle or anything that will collect water, just make sure that's pointing down a little bit, because they won't like an environment that's completely flooded. There we have it. That will increase the wildlife in the entire of the garden.